Hello everybody. I hope you read the warning because today's video is about me informing you on gender roles in regards to the video game industry. Now, I love playing video games just as much as the next guy does, but we all can't ignore that there are some major differences between the male and female characters in the games we play. Now, I'm not going to go into full detail about how females are sometimes sexualized in video games because that would be massively hypocritical of me. Besides, there are also male characters who are getting sexualized in games as fan service for the female gamers now too. No, instead I'm talking about how certain gender roles are assigned to some of our classic pixelated pals. For the longest time, there were never that many female heroes in video games. Most games back then were about men saving women from monsters and guys blowing stuff up. You know, the classics. And when games started growing more, women often acted as supporting roles for our male protagonists almost all the time. There are still many games where a female character is nothing more than a love interest with zero personality whatsoever, outside of being the emotional crutch for her man, instead of receiving something to strive for herself. Because women didn't exactly have strong roles in most video game stories, they were often considered a joke in comparison to the male heroes.
And now, Prejudice shows old-timey humor. Hey, what do you call a man who just lost all logic? A woman! How many women does it take to screw in a light bulb? Screw in a light bulb? That's a man's job! Get back to cooking! What do you call a woman who thinks she has the same rights as a man? A damn good comedian! Thank you. Now, let me talk about that wacky Martin Luther King Jr. I'll need my blackface for this one.
This is because of the patriarchy in video games. What is the patriarchy? Well, no, it's not a Krogan who drinks at a bar and tells his old war stories. The patriarchy is actually a system where the males control everything and are the main influence behind male-dominated consumerist goods. Does anything really need to be said about video games being targeted toward a male demographic? The patriarchy, it thrives in the video game industry, mostly because video games are still considered for men. Even though there is a growing population of female gamers out there, it still remains in control by male producers aiming video games that are violent and hardcore for male fans who love to play stuff where you kill stuff, save women, and blow stuff up all like that. Fortunately, the video game industry has actually grown up a little and provided us with strong independent women to act as heroes in their own games as well too. Sometimes these female heroes actually outshine the male heroes we used to look up to. Sadly, some people still complain that having awesome female heroes who protect themselves were offensive towards women for some reason, and those unorthodox women who desired to be strong like them were not feminine or even considered normal. Yes, because a woman who is smart and can defend herself is definitely not attractive or likable. I know I'd choose Princess Peach over Samus Aran any day. This is possibly because traditional gender role stereotypes are reinforced through family, school, peers, and the media on what's appropriate behavior for men and women. In all brutal honesty, our world does hold some stereotypical expectations for men and women to this very day. Women suffer the most because of society's bizarre source code for our daily lives, but I was quite shocked that women don't want to use some of the fictional characters from video games as role models for wanting to be stronger and awesome. Don't get me wrong, like I said before, there are a lot of sexualized women in video games, but not all of them. Gender inequality exists because it benefits a group in power that can shape society, aka man. However, that doesn't mean all female characters are sexualized and pretty much lustful objects that men should target. Some of these female characters are actually pretty awesome. In fact, female video game characters are proving to be more popular than a lot of male characters due to getting a hefty amount of character development, likable personalities, and more credit as competent action girls who rise above the male heroes. A lot of them even get the most epic moments in their own video games. Unfortunately, there are still a few games out there maintaining society's prehistoric negative views of women, such as them requiring rescue from men, rewarding them with love, and having weaker powers in comparison to the epic male fighters. Gender inequality occurs because society wants us to believe that there are certain characteristics that define our identity as a man or a woman. We were led to think that men were supposed to be physically stronger and smarter than women, and women were meant to believe that they were inferior to men and couldn't take care of themselves. And sexism in video games is slowly diminishing over time, but that hasn't prevented some women from upholding the roles as a damsel in distress who needs a man to save her. And of course, there are some women in games with completely unrealistic anatomy that should be impossible for men to even fantasize about, but it's very likely that this aspect isn't going anywhere anytime soon because, again, the evil patriarchy is in control. With all due respect to women, though, the only way I think that they can fight back against this trait is by ordering more sexualized male characters in their games. As ridiculous as it sounds, this is actually starting to work since more and more games include a lot of men with impossibly hot bodies doing cool things that no man could ever do in real life. Men don't exactly suffer from sexism or gender stereotypes in video games because the characters they play as are cool and we all actually do want to be like them. However, we tend to get a little jealous too. I'll be one of the first few males to admit, yeah, I'm jealous of Leon Kennedy or Kratos having hot bods and attracting so many women, but not a lot of men will admit that. But getting back on track, there's no denying that some video games did feature negative stereotypes of women in a few stories. This was because it was institutionalized in the video game industry through common practices, and they never really focused on a female demographic because video games were admired by men mostly. But in all honesty, I feel that modern-day video games currently being released are starting to defy the outdated roles of men and women in gender stereotypes. Women featured in games are becoming stronger, epic, well-developed, and even more lovable than most male heroes. It's no secret that video games have been well known for setting off controversy due to what they feature in their games, like the sexualized women, but banning it only makes men want it even more. Much to everyone's surprise, though, sometimes games can actually provide us with thought-provoking ideas, such as a woman being capable fighter and more intelligent than men. Women are stronger than we give them credit for, and I do believe that the video game world is trying to show gamers that women are capable of kicking butt and even rising above the male heroes. Admittedly, some of the women we see in games do have positive morals that would make them good role models for girls, especially if they're heroes who learn how to fight for themselves and perform good actions on their own out of the goodness of their heart. In fact, most of my favorite games I play are usually focused on ordinary girls growing more and more awesome through character development and their experiences. If men like me admire women who take care of themselves, then why can't other men or women actually care for video game females being awesome? Hey, if there are men who openly admit to watching My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, the women should have the courage to admit to loving or respecting video games. If the female demographic in the video game industry grows, then the patriarchy will realize that they should have more strong, independent women in video games and gain the respect of a female audience. However, again, since not many females care for video games, the patriarchy remains in power and having some of the old, outdated gender stereotypes, but I think that they're starting to realize how wrong it is and getting better at making better females. But yeah, women should like playing video games, why not? Especially if they play as a woman who wins more epic fights flawlessly just as much as any man could. Alright everybody, prepare for the cheesy ending I'm closing out on, so I hope you have your crackers out because there's going to be a lot of cheese. It's not unnatural. We're all individuals who love and do different things. Women shouldn't buy into those ancient beliefs of what makes a woman feminine and socially accepted, because much like the fictional strong independent women who kick butt, you should just accept being yourself. Because man or woman, we are all human beings who should value each other for who we are.
Here we go! And knowing is half the battle.